to within 100 or so meters regardless of distance. Even these discrepancies can be accounted for by many of the sites being as much as 400 or even 500 meters in dimension, and it being difficult to assign an exact 100-meter grid reference to them. Most of the measuring points within the ancient system are marked by small tumuli, cairns or standing stones. Such was their desire for precision. Many high-altitude encampments contain tumuli, such as Foel de Gran here, or Yarnbury in Wiltshire, where it was at one time just outside the ramparts, but has since been embraced within. The exact measuring point could thus have been a tumulus or a cairn originally, or even a stone that was later enclosed within a much larger compound and then perhaps lost. But Lambert's Castle, Pilston Pen, Bratton Camp, and many others contain small mounds within to this day. Similarly, with grid references being at 100-meter intervals, it's equally difficult to categorize a small tumulus or cairn about 10 meters across, or even a standing stone, using the 100-meter reference. So we must become adjusted to deviations of this order being acceptable, because we're dealing with countrywide triangulation extending over hundreds of kilometers. This then is how I believe controlled expansion could have developed, using features allied to Silbury to form isosceles, then following by linear progression to establish points further afield. To advance to multi-unit development, we can turn to the next chart as an exercise in reaching various points of the compass by combining the triangulation and alignment to establish a nationwide pattern. Again, based on Silbury, A. Establish long barrows at, in this instance, Chettle, and then Pen Hill in Somerset, that are equally spaced from the Great Mound. B. Extend the two, first to Kye Castle and Fanfort in Wales, and then back along the line to Christchurch Castle on the south coast. With Silbury and Kye Castle as base, seek an apex northwards and you arrive at Berry Bank in Staffordshire. If now, D, you extend Silbury and Chettle, you arrive at Bindon Camp on the south coast of England, and then drop a perpendicular from Berry Bank in the north to Bindon, and you will find that equidistance exists at Lundy Island Standing Stone and High Rocks in Kent, from which we can construct, let us call it, a prism, with not a pair of equal sides, but two pairs of equal sides over great distance. Now, without GPS, could a group of university undergraduates do this today with an absolutely barren landscape? Here, though, we have two extensive alignments exclusive to this presentation that convey convincingly the influence of Silbury Hill. Every station along the two alignments is connected to Silbury and one other ancient site by the isosceles principle. Every single site. The triangulation being shown by colour variation. The line from West Wales reaches 428 kilometres from Black Point on the west coast to Broaddown Tumulus on the Kent coast. That's an incredible achievement in itself, yet at every stage of progress it's contacted by Silbury. The second line reaches northeast from Shipton Fort in Dorset to Thetford Mound in Norfolk, and on the way it collects 12 stations, including Stonehenge, every one of them possessing an isosceles partner to Silbury. By any standard, but certainly by those we may have expected to pertain at the time, This is remarkable practical geometry and exceptional surveying, while the civil engineering is unmatched in that these ancient structures are there for us to see because they have long outlasted anything built since prehistoric time. We now begin to be more seriously involved in geometry by learning that these previously undiscovered alignments are, in a manner of speaking, harnessed by a pair of equally spaced outriders that connect equally with each aligned site. This line from B36 Griffin Point in Cornwall to Barham Tumnus in Kent extends over 431 kilometres, taking in 17 units from the past, including Sidbury, Blackberry and Musbury, that I first aligned when I was 15 in Devon, as I mentioned at the outset. All this is established on a barren, undulating landscape with many natural hazards, and presumably no instrumentation for guidance. Of course, Silbury was not the only monument to be in triangulation, as in turn every site had such a role to perform to a more or less degree, and geometric patterns, all truly accurate in every detail, can be constructed on any of them, as I propose to demonstrate. This enabled every corner of this sea-bound land to be contacted using a known, predetermined system with assured mathematical accuracy. This is a complex pattern using just a small percentage of Silbury's equal-sided contacts. And here is another based on Stonehenge with far-reaching results. Note that by linking the apexes of each of the isosceles triangles with their equal sides, a further cross-country straight track is created. It's my belief that although Stonehenge was an integral part of the original scheme, enabling alignments from Silbury and Avebury to reach today's Christchurch in Hampshire, it started life merely as an embanked standing stone. But through the passage of time, just as today, there was much more activity in the south than in the north, and Stonehenge became a more important confluence, requiring a structure to reflect its status. A particularly interesting throughway starts, for example, at Mahon Castle in Cornwall, passes through Exeter and what is today's Honiton High Street, and then Stockland Little Castle to Stonehenge, and thence continues on right into Essex to Loughton Camp. And along it, these short sections are often still in existence, but they are classified as Roman roads. But the ancient British surveyed them many centuries earlier. This is a long barrow not far from where I now live in Somerset. It is known as the Wellow Long Barrow. Still more or less as built all those thousands of years ago, with single stone dormitories within, and stone entrance that includes an ammonite usually associated with lower contours. This, like Bellas Knapp, the West Kennet Long Barrow, and many others across the country, would have provided fine overnight refuge or a base for construction groups working on large projects such as Avebury and Stonehenge. The far-reaching nature of the patterning is typical, as you will see, and it is this feature of accuracy over such great distance that I find perplexing, as normal line-of-sight methods would have been hard